All right, so in the last video, we actually made our enemy chase us with that nav mesh bounds volume. We hooked up a very simple animation blueprint. I might go ahead and speed up the enemy really quick just by going to that character movement component and finding that max walk speed. I might try 350, just a little bit faster. But you can kind of dial that in for yourself. But for right now, I need this thing to actually start doing damage, right? And I think, kind of thinking forward, if I'm going to have multiple enemy types, I want to have as much on the event graph to handle anything I want the enemies to be able to do, so that if I have a different enemy type that's maybe faster or has more health or does something different or whatever, if I can still have it deal damage to me and I can deal damage to it, I want to have as much of that stuff on the kind of default enemy blueprint event graph, so that as I duplicate the enemies to make new enemy types, it still has all that stuff already kind of working, right? Does that kind of make sense? So pretty much, I want this enemy to do damage to me, and I'm going to put that on the enemy blueprint here. And actually, let me go ahead and change the material on this just so we know definitely it's not player character. I'm going to do hex tile pulse. I guess for both of these. You can change that if you wish. I'm going to go ahead and do that. That's awesome. That way we know that's definitely the enemy, right? So yeah, I'm going to have as much of this interactability with the player character on here, so that if I have multiple enemy types in the future, I can just duplicate it, and I already have all that stuff already working, and I know it's working. So first thing I want to do is make it so that this enemy can actually damage us. Okay, so I'm actually going to go back to the viewport really quick, and I need to add one component to this. I'm going to type in COL for collision, and I'm going to grab a capsule collision. And I will just call it, capsule collider, maybe. Something like that. And it looks like I'm going to have to move it up. And it's a little bit weird when it comes to how to scale these. I think probably the easiest way is going to be clicking on the original capsule. And if I look at its shape, it says its half height is 88 and its radius is 34. So I might just increase those by 4. So I might do 92 by 38. So I'll come here, 92 by 38. And pretty much what that's going to do is give me that second capsule collider, the one that I have currently selected, which is highlighted yellow. It's just a little bit larger overall in all directions here than the original capsule, right? Because this one I want to handle overlaps. I'm going to stick with overlaps for now just because that's what we've been doing. But I want to just have another capsule that I can have purely handle overlap events, so that I can either have it deal damage to the player or take damage if I'm like shooting projectiles at it or something, right? So now that I have that, I can go to my event graph and I can say event actor begin overlap. I can cast to my character, which again, I'm still in a third person project here. And I'll do other actor into object. And when that happens, I just need to get the player health and do a little minus, or I guess they call it subtract. And maybe I want it so that if they hit me 25 or 4 times, then I'll die. So it's going to be doing 25 damage, right? So I'll do that, and then I'm going to drag out and say set player health. Again, it's all the same stuff we've been doing before with our spikes and health pack and even the coin, right? Just like that. And then I don't want it to like destroy itself or anything like that. So this should be enough for it to do damage to me. Let's go ahead and compile and save that. There might be something I want to do just to make this a little bit better. Just to show you a little bit different way of handling this. But for now, boom, I took some damage. If it catches up to me again, I take more damage. more damage, and then I die, right? And that's fine, but if I just stand here, then I'm not taking any more damage. And I could do this on the spikes as well, but definitely it feels kind of weird when the enemy doesn't just keep doing damage to me, right? So I'm going to go ahead and make it so that while the enemy is overlapping with me, it's going to continually do a little bit of damage, okay? So if you want to just stick with this, that's totally fine. You can stick with this. This will be great. But actually, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect these. Just kind of move them. Okay, and I think I do want it to be connected to my tick, perhaps, or maybe I'll make a custom event, but I want to have begin overlap as well as end overlap. Actor end overlap. Okay, and over here I want to make a variable, and I'm just going to call it like can damage player. And when it begins overlapping, let's see, I guess I still need this. I'm going to copy it and paste it. That's the case. If that's what's overlapping, then I can go ahead and say, yep, set can damage player to true. And then I can actually duplicate these. So copy and paste and hook it up to my end overlap. And then set that back to false. Okay, so while it's overlapping, I'm basically saying, yes, you can do damage to the player. And I could do this on a tick, but again, a tick is based on your frame rate, so maybe I don't want to do that. So I think I will do a custom event. Sorry, I'm just trying to get everything to kind of fit on one screen here so you can follow along pretty well. I'll do a custom event. And this will be, I don't know, continual damage, maybe. Something like that. Continual damage. And first things first, I got to drag out and drop in a branch to see if it's true or false that I can do, that the enemy can do damage, right? So I'll drag that out, get can damage player. Look that up. If it's true, go ahead and do all this stuff. If it's false, just do nothing. I do need get player on for my cast right there. And then here, I probably want to make this a much smaller number, right? Because I might have it doing it like every couple of seconds or every second or something. So maybe I'll do a much smaller number, like 5. Okay, and then I still have my event begin play. I'm going to drag that down. If you deleted it, you can just right click and add a new event begin play. And I'm going to do set timer by event. I can just click and drag this red square down to event. Let's just say it's going to continually do damage every second once it overlaps with me, and I'll say looping. And then once I end overlap, it won't be doing any more damage. So this is how you could do like continual damage, right? Let's take a look at that now. I'm going to test it out, make sure it works. There we go. Now it's doing a little bit more damage. If I leave, it's going to stop. And if I have it overlap again, it's doing more damage. I can heal up a bit, have it do more damage. So there you go. That's pretty cool. Some continual damage. So again, I'll get all that to kind of fit on one screen, so you can maybe pause it there. But that's doing damage to us. That's awesome, and I'm dying, and the game's restarting. And now I want to make it so I can actually do damage to the enemy. So first things first, I got to actually give my enemy, and I'm still on the enemy blueprint here, I got to give it a health variable. So I'm going to click on add variable, and I'll call this enemy health. And instead of a Boolean, I want it to be an integer. Whoop, right? Because Boolean is true or false, right? Which is how we could get that can damage player. And then enemy health is going to be a number. So I'll go ahead and compile that. And I'm going to set it to 100 because I like to think in terms of percentages, right, out of 100. And then on the event graph, this is why I didn't really want to use a tick for that. I'm going to go ahead and just find some empty space, and I'm going to do a tick now to check if the enemy has died. I'll drag out and do a branch. Grab this. Say, is it less than or equal to 0? And if that's true, you know, I could maybe even like have it spawn a coin or something. You know, give the player some points for killing the enemy, maybe. So we could spawn a coin, or we could just award points. Maybe I'll spawn a coin. I'll do spawn actor from class. If not, you could always cast 2 and then add some points and then destroy the actor, right? But I'm going to go ahead and spawn a coin. And I'll do get actor transform. A transform is just its location, rotation, and scale. I should be able to just do that, and that'll be fine. And then after that happens, go ahead and destroy the actor. Right? So once the enemy has run out of health, it's going to drop a coin for the character to pick up, and then it's going to destroy itself. Okay, but I still don't have anything to actually do damage to the enemy. So I'm going to go ahead and make that now. If you're in a first-person template, you already have projectiles, but I believe they bounce off of things, so you might want to make a new projectile just so you can definitely have it do damage to the enemy. But I'll show how to make a projectile for everybody else. And sure, I'll go ahead and save now. Why not? So I'll go ahead and minimize this. And back in my content drawer, I can go back to my blueprints. And I'm going to right-click, do a new blueprint class. I'll do an actor because it's something I'm going to be spawning, right? When I shoot a projectile, it just spawns. And I will call it BP underscore player projectile. I'll double click that to open it up. I am going to replace the scene like I've been doing on most of these things. And I'm just going to make it a ball. It'll just be a very simple projectile here. You can dress it up and make it look a little bit better if you want, add some more components, but I'm just going to do a sphere. And let me call it projectile. And then I will scale it a little bit, make it a bit smaller, maybe like that. And I could change the material on it to maybe some sort of metal. Maybe I'll do like burnished steel again on this one, make it look like a cannonball or something. A little musket ball, who knows. And then I'll go add component again, COL for collision, and I'll do a sphere collision. And I will call it probably sphere collider. And I'll probably want it to be just a little bit smaller. I definitely want it larger than the projectile itself, but I don't know if I want it to be that big. Probably something like that. That'll feel okay, I think. Okay. And then what's really nice about these components is I can go add component, and I can find a projectile movement component. Projectile movement component, okay? Click on that, go ahead and enter for the name. I think that's a fine name for my projectile movement component. And I need to set some initial values and stuff here, some default values. So with that selected, in the details, I have an initial speed and a max speed. I might try something fairly fast. I might do like, I don't know, 2,000. Maybe that's like way too fast. I don't know. I'm kind of just guessing. And I'll keep my initial speed and my max speed the same for now. The gravity scale is how much it's going to be pulled down, right? So if you just want this to go in a straight line, you can go ahead and get rid of the gravity by typing in 0. Or you can have it anywhere between 0 and 1. And then if I look through here, ooh, there's a homing option. That might be interesting. Right here it has a velocity. That's actually its direction. So that's fine. That default is totally fine. If I hit play, it's not going to do anything. But if I hit simulate, you should see it shoot off in the X direction. That's exactly what I want. Okay? That's pretty good. Maybe I'll actually speed this up a little bit. Maybe I'll do like 2,500. Okay? So now if I simulate that, it's just a little bit faster. And then really quick, let's jump over to the event graph. And what I want to tackle here is, right now, if I shoot a bunch of projectiles, there's nothing that's clearing them off of the map. So let's say I'm playing this game for hours upon hours, and I've shot millions upon millions of projectiles. Eventually, my scene is probably going to slow down quite a bit, right? My game is going to be lagging. And that's not good, right? And that's just because I have so many projectiles that are just endlessly going on and on and on. So what I want to do is, after event begin play here, I want to set the lifespan. Now you could go event begin play and do a delay and then destroy actor, but that's 2 nodes. I can do that in 1 node, so it's a little bit more efficient, right? So set lifespan, and then I'm gonna just do something like, I don't know, 5 seconds. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but 5 seconds is quite a bit when it comes to gameplay. So 5 seconds should be totally fine there. And compile and save that. I can go back to my viewport and simulate it. So I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There you go. Very cool. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want. Again, I want to handle as much of this affecting the enemy as I can on the enemy. So I want to make this thing deal damage to on the enemy blueprint. And because I'm already doing actor begin overlap, I'm going to do this a little bit different way. It's still going to be an overlap, but instead of doing actor, I'm going to do a specific component. Okay, so I'm going to go to the viewport, and I want to make sure I get the capsule collider that we just made. It's the one that's a little bit larger than the original one, right? So it's this one that's on the outside. And if I have that selected, I can scroll all the way down in the details until I find on component begin overlap. So for me, it's the second one down on these green plus buttons here. On component begin overlap. If I click on that, it's going to drop in a node for me on the event graph, which is awesome. And here I can drag out and cast to player projectile. And I want to make sure other actor goes into object. And when that's the case, I have my enemy health here. I can just drag out and say get enemy health and set enemy health. And let's say, I don't know, maybe I have to shoot the enemy 5 times, right? So I'm going to do my minus. I subtract, and I'm going to make it do 20 damage. And I'll hook that up. And I don't know, maybe for right here, this makes sense to also do the explosion and the particle explosion. So I'm going to do play sound at location. And I can always get the location of the projectile itself. Get actor location. Plug that in, find my sound. I'll do explosion 2 again. And then I can do spawn emitter at location. And I can just use the same location. That's perfect. And I'll grab the explosion. Okay, and then after that, after all of this, this is just dressing it up a little bit, having it have a little bit of a sound and an explosion just to kind of really sell that impact and that it's hitting the enemy and doing damage. You don't really need to do that, but I think it goes a long ways to help the player know that it's actually connecting and doing damage. So this will be fine. And then after this, should be able to just do destroy actor, but again, I'm on my enemy, so I don't want the target to be self. So I want to drag as player projectile all the way across into there, which means when the projectile overlaps with the capsule, it's going to check if that's the thing that's doing it. If it is, it's going to continue on through and it's going to get the health and subtract 20 from it and set that to the health. And then it's going to play the sound at the location, spawn the emitter at the same location, and then destroy the actor. And again, I've plugged as projectile into target there. Okay, so again, let me try and get that all kind of on one screen a little bit. So you can pause it there and make sure yours looks like that. Okay, and then I'll minimize this and I'm going to go find my character again. And I just need to give my character the ability to actually shoot now. So I'm just going to continue on down this path here. I'll right click. And again, I could do the input action mapping the correct way, but for now, I think it's okay if we kind of ignore that. I'm going to go ahead and just look for probably left mouse button. And I want mouse events left mouse button. And when that's pressed, I'm going to do spawn actor from class. The spawn transform is just going to be get actor transform. I could make my own transform, especially if I wanted it to be based on like the camera instead of the character, or make it more specific. But for now, this will be totally fine. And I need to tell it what class to spawn, so this is going to be the projectile again. And the collision handling override, I might want to mess with this, but I can tell you right now it's going to be overlapping and colliding with the character. And there's an easier way to fix this than messing with this. But we could say try to adjust location, but always spawn. Or we could just leave it at default for now, because we'll fix it a different way. And that should be all I want. I was thinking of maybe playing another sound or something, but I think this is all I really want. And then really quick, let's jump back to the projectile. And I actually probably want to move this up. Let's try 60 units, and then let's move it forward like another 60 or 70 units maybe. Let's just see what that looks like. So now if I come out here and hit play, I'm shooting the projectile. The enemy's chasing me up here. Apparently it doesn't know it can go up those ramps, but let's see if I can actually shoot the enemy and kill it. I did, and it spawned a coin. So there I actually have a working enemy that I can do damage to, and he can do damage to me, which just makes this feel a little bit more fleshed out. Again, it's a very simple enemy, but you could definitely illustrate, hey, I want this area to have lots of enemies, and you have to survive the onslaught, the oncoming waves of enemies, or whatever. You can get the point across of what you want the game to feel like just by having those simple enemies, right? So that's very cool. And you can have several enemies. I could duplicate that enemy and have a few of them chasing me around. Now if I hit play, they should all come after me. Again, they're not the smartest. They kind of just follow me in a big group. Sometimes you can get them to split up, but they all seem to be kind of just packed together. But if you have them all in different locations at the start, maybe that will help kind of break them apart a little bit. I keep shooting right at the start, but that's totally fine. There you go. Now they feel a little bit different. Well, now they grouped up again, but either way, kind of fun, right? And then they'll continually do damage to me. Now I'm being attacked by 3 of them, so I'm taking even more damage, and I die and respawn. So definitely feeling like a more complete game, right? Kind of fun. So hopefully you're having fun with that. You can start building out your game and your level and have fun with that and play around with it, test things out, make sure it's all working how you want. And yeah, like I said, have fun with it.